My name is Caroline Hoglund, and I am a mother of three with a passion. I have a passion for children's development, their needs, and attachment. And this grew in me when I first became a mother. With the birth of my firstborn son, he's the one with the red hair over there. And this is my family, by the way, with my mother, the queen of the family, in the middle. I am dedicated to be a voice for children, first and foremost, but also for women, parents, and families. And it will always matter immensely how we take care of our children, our future generation. I'm here today as a board member of the organization Haro, working to empower parents, educate on children's needs, and enable more choices for parents. And I am from Sweden. I currently live in Stockholm, Sweden. So this is a picture of Almedalen, and it is located on the biggest island in Sweden, in the medieval city of Visby. And every year there's a politicians' week organized here. And there are seminars, events, and political activities attended by anyone of importance in the political system, as well as companies and organizations working for change. And last summer, it was over 4,000 events during this week. And it is considered the most important forum for Swedish politics in the year. And I was there last summer representing Haro. And a significant amount of the events and seminars highlighted mental health. And mental health problems are an increasing and alarming problem of our societies today. In fact, according to the World Health Organization, by the year of 2030, mental health problems will be the biggest burden of disease in virtually the whole world. So having this passion for children and youth, what especially makes me sad about this is that our youth are particularly affected. And I'm going to show you some statistics from Sweden concerning our youth. And this is measured from 2006 to 2016 in a 10-year period. In the ages of 10 to 17, there was an increase of over 100% in mental health problems. In 18 to 24-year-olds, it was close to 70% increase in mental health problems. And in Stockholm, the capital of Sweden, the biggest city, the increase was 160% in 10 to 17-year-olds in this 10-year period, and 115% in 18 to 24-year-olds. As many as 1 in 4 of 16 to 18-year-olds suffer from mental ill health. And looking at this, it is very important to understand that this is not from teenagers feeling blue or a little depressed. This is from youth who have reached out for help to a hospital or a specialized psychiatric clinic for psychiatric diagnosis, or taking out some form of psychotropics at least one time. So I can only imagine what the actual number is. How many have not reached out for help, who doesn't know how or what to do. And not only is it difficult for you to deal with these problems at a young age, but it can also bring serious consequences for them. For example, they are high risk to be ill during a long period of time, which also increases suicidal attempts and suicide. And it also affects other areas in life as well, not just health and mortality, but also education. They tend to have a lower education than their peers, and thus also affecting subsequent working life. So, these serious problems were discussed and reported in Almedalen, and municipalities and organizations reported on different ways they tackle the current situation. And solutions were mainly about investing more money and resources into projects, schools, school and primary health, children and youth psychiatric clinics, etc. And I felt discouraged. Don't get me wrong, this is very important and also absolutely needed. But nevertheless, band-aid solutions to deep problems. And why we have these problems obviously have many factors. It is complex, and maybe the silence was because of the complexity of the problem at hand. But however, one important factor that I would like to bring up today, according to multiple studies, are attachment problems. And development psychology, neurobiology, and animal epigenetic studies are proving that one root cause of mental health challenges stem from early parent-child relationships, attachment problems. And a defense against mental ill health is a secure childhood with strong attachment. So to ensure this secure childhood with strong attachment, we need present and engaged parents. And I would like to mention 2 studies for you. In a British study, scientists looked at about 17,000 children who were born in 1970. They looked at what allowed children that had a difficult start in life to go on and do well in school nevertheless. And the data showed that what mattered most was, above all, parents. Having engaged and interested parents in the first few years of life was strongly linked to children going on to do well in school later. There was a longitudinal study on 90,000 adolescents in the United States with the question, what is the single most important factor in emotional health and well-being and the lack of psychological ill health? And the answer was a strong emotional connection with a caring adult, meaning healthy and strong attachment. So we need those relationships to grow into our full potential. So let's take some time to understand attachment. So just shortly, attachment is an affectional tie or bond between a child and their primary caregiver, usually a mother. And we know that a healthy and secure attachment is necessary for vital developments in a child. A child's attachment response peaks between 12 to 24 months, and by 33 to 36 months, the intensity has reduced sufficiently so that the child can tolerate a few hours of separation. And babies are born very dependent on their parents. And the most important stage for brain development is actually starting in the womb. And by the age of 3, a child's brain has reached about 80% of its adult size. And that is rapid growth. And you know what? Studies show that the brain development of infants depends on a loving bond or attachment with a primary caregiver. I will say that again. Brain development of infants depends on a loving bond or attachment with a primary caregiver. So as a parent, your sensitivity to the needs of your child is a major determinant in whether a secure or insecure attachment will develop. And when a secure attachment is developed, there are clear positive effects. And when an insecure attachment is developed, there are clear negative effects. Let's start with some of the positive effects. So first, emotional regulation and emotional development. When caring for a child, the emotional care is highly important, especially in the first 3 years. And the emotional development is very important to have relationships, read social cues, and relate to others, and regulate emotions. And it is also the foundation for later cognitive development. And a small child, they need help to regulate their emotions. They are unable to do this by themselves. And we need to help them and comfort them. And we need to guide them through their emotions and interpret them for them. So our job as parents is to help a child understand their constantly changing emotions. So how do we do that? Well, children receive that emotional regulation in a loving environment where their emotions are accepted, validated, and they feel empathy. In a secure attachment, in other words. And this is done through a moment-to-moment interaction during the day. Right? When those emotions surface in the child, we need to be there and guide them and interpret them, the emotions, and comfort them. Some other positive effects of a secure attachment is resilience to stress, good self-esteem, and healthy relationships in the future. So how do we get the secure attachment? Children receive a healthy attachment through constant and predictable care, starting with responding quickly and accurately to a baby's signal, and continuously through warm interaction, eye contact, play, and closeness. And here's the magnificent paradox, that for a child to become independent, they first need to depend. And when your child has that secure attachment developed over a few years, they are then ready to go and explore the world. And they can still feel that they have you close even though you're apart for short periods of time. So a secure attachment is an advantage for a lifetime. This is what we want for our children, and it is essential for their healthy development. Let's go into some of the negative effects of an insecure attachment. So if a primary caregiver is insensitive and not well attuned with their baby's or child's communication, and if the care is inconsistent and unpredictable, an insecure attachment will likely develop. And studies show that an insecure attachment has negative effects on mental health problems. They're at high risk for depression and anxiety problems. And going back to the statistics that I showed you in the beginning from youth in Sweden, the largest increase among them with mental health problems are from just that, depression and anxiety problems. Second, behavioral problems. And third, even physical health, it seems. And fourth, studies show that if we experience an insecure attachment pattern with, say, our mother as a child, we are more likely to re-experience insecurity in our closest relationships when we grow up, especially with romantic partners and with our own future children. So how important then that we see to and support these relationships for the well-being of future generations. So looking at attachment, it becomes clear that developments in our society will force us, if we want a sustainable society, to go forward to situation where children will be able to attach, at least in the first 3 years. And this may be inconvenient, but nevertheless, we have to face it and take responsibility. So we know so much about attachment and its effects today, and we have for many years. And we understand how important a secure attachment is. But why, despite of that, do we have so many children with attachment problems? And why do we have so many children and youth who are unhappy, even mentally ill? One reason is that we no longer value the unpaid care work, the work to take care of our children, and that has effect on the care. So the UN talks about the unpaid care work as work that we need to be reduce and redistribute. And I can see the need for that in some ways, of course, but if we will only think of it as something that needs to be reduced and redistributed, of course we will not value it. So I'm from Sweden, and Sweden is considered a progressive country where social protection systems have been in place for many years. For example, we have daycare, which is actually called preschool now, even for 1-year-olds. We have that available to all. And I could also be a paid caregiver to, say, my neighbor's 3 children. And someone else would receive money and credit for taking care of my 3 children. So this is how we do it. We redistribute the care. On the other hand, if I would take care of my own 3 children myself, well, I wouldn't receive anything, and furthermore, it would not be valued. The general opinion would be that I didn't contribute to society, that my children might not learn much, and they might even be socially impaired. We have left our children in the care of others for so many years now, so the norm is laid out and followed like the only option. So the big question is, what results would we get from these different scenarios? Children being cared at a preschool, children being cared by a paid caregiver, or children being cared by their mothers or fathers. where will the children get the optimal care that they need to grow into emotionally healthy and strong adults? The irony is clear. Mothers and fathers leaving their children who need them to, in some cases, go and care for other parents' children who need them, all to generate money to support a system of care that in many ways are damaging the true system of care. So, is there another way? Can we broaden the perspectives a little bit? I think we can, and I think we need to. So the UN talks about another R in there, as you see, recognize. There we have it. For sustainable development in our societies, we have to consider very carefully what we know about attachment and give families more possibilities to do the work and recognize it as societies, value it. So when creating social protection systems or evaluating them, we need to take our children into consideration. And the United Nations Convention of the Rights of Children says that the child's best interest should always be considered and always be prioritized in all actions concerning children. I couldn't agree more. So we need to stop this trend of mental health problems because it is not a sustainable situation. And attachment is not the whole answer. I know that. But what we do know is that the foundation for a thriving society is laid in loving, secure, and healthy attachment bonds in families. So to conclude, the evidence on the important role of loving nurture in healthy development in children is powerful. And parenting is therefore incredibly important. And parents have important work to do that really does contribute to our societies. Let's not forget about our children and their needs. And let's recognize parents. Let's value the powerful work that parents do, and let's help them do it. It has advantages for a lifetime, even for generations. And the next generation is our responsibility. Thank you.